Whoop them up. Yeah, take it to them. All right, here we go, guys. Bell ringer for today. Yeah. Woo. So describe how imperialism would motivate countries and propel them towards war. All right, so last chapter was all about imperialism, how these countries are expanding and becoming more dominant powers. And I know I mentioned it yesterday a little bit with Germany. Okay. Today, that's really all we're going to talk about with German unification, the Franco-Prussian War. Okay, but how is imperialism motivating countries and pushing them towards war? Recording. Yep. Cody, the iPad working today? Yeah. All right, good. Good. All right, so describe how imperialism would motivate countries and propel them towards war. Propel, like the sports drink, right? Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. More of a water guy. Oh, that's a good thing. It's a good thing. Keep those sugars out of it, huh? All right. Yeah. All right, so imperialism. What do we got? How would this motivate countries towards war? What is imperialism again? Go ahead, Chase.
I have like two countries could be trying to take over the same territory. The same territory.
Yeah. Yeah, good job. So they might have interest in the same territory or area that they're trying to take over, which would eventually push these countries to compete against each other, right? Yeah, good job. So this age of imperialism that we talked about, all right, with the scramble for Africa, with the United States expanding out in the Pacific, okay, eventually there's going to be other powers doing the same thing, and that their sphere of influences, right? You guys remember that term? Their sphere of influences are going to be colliding together, and that's only going to result in war. Okay, as these two countries, and they're all trying to compete for resources, raw materials, establishing military bases, and becoming a more dominant power. So that's always going to be an issue, especially if all these countries are expanding to a point all around the world. In Africa, we talked about it. United States and Pacific, Caribbean Sea. Okay. The one thing with the United States, unlike these European countries, they really didn't have a competitor in the Western Hemisphere, right? Not really. I mean, not really at all. It was to a point they controlled the Western Hemisphere, that half of the world, and there was real no clear competition against them. Eventually, when we get to World War II, Japan would be that competitor. But at the time of the imperialism, late 1800s, moving into the early 1900s, there was no competitor. Right? But in Europe, how many competitors were there? Tons of them, right? Tons of them. There's a lot of countries expanding and becoming more dominant all at the same time. So that's the difference. Okay, that was the difference. The U.S. controlled the Western Hemisphere. There was no influence there. They wanted to try to follow that Monroe Doctrine, which they did pretty well at. Okay, European countries, not so much. Right, their half of the world was filled with these competitors as they're all industrializing, as they're all becoming military forces. All right, is there any questions on that? You good? You guys understand how imperialism moves right to World War One? All right. Yesterday with the pretest, I think I messed one up for your class when I watched the video. Yeah, I did. So the three types of motivations people within America, I think I said isolationists, I think I said neutralists, and interventionists, right? It's supposed to be internationalists, interventionists, and then isolationists, okay? So I don't know what question it was, but we'll get to that. We'll cover it in notes. So no need to worry. I just was watching a video and like, wait a minute, I messed that one up. So we'll go back to that sooner or later.
Pointed out when he was watching the other show.
What's that?
I thought maybe Fleming pointed out when he was watching.
He did. That's who tweeted at me.
I figured.
Yeah, Fleming was like, you know what? I just got done with practice, watching the video. I got the alert during meetings.
Post-game interview.
Yeah, yeah.
Stop calling me a sign.
Yeah. I had to stop Ryan Day and in practice. I gotta let him know. All right, so vocab terms. Here we go. Just a couple today. That's it. Pretty much all based on German imperialism too. Oh my gosh, we're talking about Germany, American history. What the heck? Did I already have Kaiser Wilhelm II? Yeah. Okay. So it's just two today then. There's these two: Otto von Bismarck, Franco-Prussian War. Should put realpolitik up there. Oh, well. That's funny.
When are we doing the presentation in psychology?
Same thing. I'm gonna do them Wednesday and Friday. All right, so Otto von Bismarck, what do we have for him? Crucial figure when it comes to German unification. When you get to the Nazi Party, okay. Overall, this military power that we see Germany as during World War I and World War II all comes from this guy. So what do you guys have for a definition? Anybody? Cody, go ahead.
The founder and first chancellor of the German Empire.
Good job. Yep, good job. So at first he was the Prussian, he was pretty much the chancellor of Prussia, okay, not Russia, Prussia with a P, okay, and he helped unify Germany, make Germany into this country, right, which we're going to talk about today with all the different German-speaking states. All right, so Otto von Bismarck unified Germany. He did this with a strong military force. Okay, he was a conservative leader. Okay, and he used the new advantages of technology to build this strong military force to expand and unify Germany. He was the top dog in Europe during the late 1800s. Okay, good. Franco-Prussian War. Let's define that. Franco-Prussian War. Bismarck's a big player into this war. What do we have? What do we have? Rooster, what do you got for this one? Yep, good job. So it happened in 1870. It only lasted a year. That was it. That was it. And Prussia, because it was an independent German-speaking state, because Germany wasn't a thing yet, they decided this is going to be the player. This is going to be the final factor of unifying Germany. If we go to war with France as a small German-speaking state, okay, and if we defeat France, which they did within a year, they're going to take and claim more territory. And this is going to show the other German-speaking states that we need to join together. We need to unify. Okay, Prussia just really had their way with France, who was a dominant power in Europe and the world at the time. So if we all come together, who knows what the possibilities could be. Right? So this was a stepping stone for Germany to unify and to recognize themselves as the most dominant power in the world, militarily. All right, any questions on that? Good? Okay. All right, so real quick, I want to talk about German unification and Franco-Prussian War a little bit more in detail. And I got a video for you and then a reading. That's it. That's it. Does that sound good? Cool. And we're coming close to the end of the first marking period. So make sure you guys get these assignments in. And Andrew and Brittany, we have you two for current events. Okay. Hunter, you didn't go yet, did you? Okay. So you're going to go next week. Sound good? All right, so there really is no PowerPoint slides for this one, so just sit back, relax, and just listen to the spiel. I just have a map. That's it. That's it. All right, so like I was mentioning before, let me just see if we're recording yet. All right, good. So like I was saying before, Germany wasn't a unified Germany yet. Okay, they're separated amongst all these German-speaking states, as you can see here. Every single one of these areas were a different state, their own defined country. They just all had a very similar culture, okay, language. They all accepted the same religion. It was to a point where they're all separated and they just needed to unify. It's like, oh, we all have the same taste, we all have the same culture, language. It's just we don't want to become unified just yet. It's easier just staying within your own borders, your own territory, right? And just recognizing themselves as a different country, separate from all these other areas. All right, but through the age of imperialism, industrialization, okay, and as these other countries like Great Britain and France, Italy, right, Russia is still far behind yet, but Prussia, okay, as you can see here, Prussia at the far eastern side of Germany, right, they saw these advances of Great Britain, okay, and they wanted to try to keep up. And where'd that second wave of industrial revolution occur? Where'd that second wave occur, Chris?
Germany.
Germany, yeah, good job. So this actually emerged in Prussia. Okay, they just called it Germany at the time. So Prussia actually came up with these new innovations, these new ways of creating finalized goods and becoming really a world power. They're trying to keep up with Great Britain, and we'll see this arms race eventually emerge to a naval arms race, which we'll talk about more tomorrow a little bit, probably Thursday, I guess. Okay, so Prussia saw the advancements of Great Britain. Okay, as these countries are going down, these European countries are going down in Africa, which we already talked about, right? Germany was falling behind. And Otto von Bismarck, the man we talked about, who was the Chancellor of Prussia, he thought the only way we can try to keep up with these European countries of extracting resources, right, raw materials out of Africa, and becoming a world power is by unifying. We need to get all these German-speaking states together. We need to try to unify all these German-speaking states. If not, we're going to just fall behind. Okay. As you can see, Prussia is very small compared to Russia, right? Very small compared to what Great Britain was and obtained through this time in the late 1800s. Great Britain had India, Australia, a large portion of Africa, and Prussia is just this small area. They're limited to what kind of resources and raw materials they have, right? Yeah, plain and simple. All right, even France was becoming an advancing country. So Otto von Bismarck, the Chancellor of Prussia, okay, and the Emperor, who was Kaiser Wilhelm I, not the second, the first, right? They decided the only way to try to unify these German-speaking states is go to war, right? The advantage they had was that they had the second wave of industrial revolution, right? They had this new forms of innovations and technology like electricity. They had different types of mechanisms that run off electricity and oil, natural gas. Still compared to these other countries that are using coal and steam-powered engines. And so obviously their weapons, their technology is a little bit more advanced. And another advantage that Prussia had is that they ran a railroad system throughout all the German-speaking states. And what's say an advantage if you have transportation? What kind of advantage would you have? What do you think? How would using a railroad system and connecting all these German-speaking states be an advantage for a country going to war? What do you think?
You transport supplies faster.
Yeah, transport supplies, troops, armaments at a fast, alarming rate. Okay, France, Great Britain, Italy, a lot of these countries didn't have this just yet. They're still using horseback and walking through far distances with their soldiers and troops, which costs a lot of resources, right? Time, and it exhausts their supplies, their troops. Okay, it's going to make them very tired traveling across these areas. They're not going to fight as well. So with the interconnection of the railroads, make sure you guys know that and write that down. That might be a short answer. Okay, using the railroads to his advantage, he could mobilize troops and soldiers at a fast rate with these new advanced weaponry, okay, military tactics. Okay, just having this transportation really pushed and propelled Germany, Prussia, as the dominant power in Europe. All right, so realistically, Prussia thought the only way to try to step up as a world power and to be recognized as a world power is unifying all these German-speaking states. So this is what starts the Prussian-French War, the Franco-Prussian War of 1870. As he's doing that, though, he sets up an alliance with, who do you think? It's called the Dual Alliance. We'll talk about this dual alliance when we get close to World War I. But Germany and who else would set up an alliance, do you think? What's that? Nope, not Russia. Not Russia. Russia. Who do you think? Dual alliance. You guys ever hear the dual alliance before? No? So it's Austria-Hungary. Okay, Austria-Hungary is right below where Germany's at. And at the time, they were a very strong power as well. So why do you think Prussia would want to try to ally with Austria-Hungary? Obviously, more troops, more power. Okay, they have a very similar culture and language. But why else? If they're going to set up an alliance, who can they keep at bay? Who's this bigger power over here? Russia, right? Yeah, so if they set up this alliance, if they have a friendship here, this will try to keep Russia out of this conflict with France. okay, with these other European powers, even Great Britain. If Great Britain would try to attack and help France out, they'd also have to fight Austria-Hungary, and they didn't want to do that. Okay, they didn't want to do that yet. So Prussia goes to war with France and only lasts a year. That's it. And a lot of it has to do with the railroad system, like I said. They could transport troops and soldiers at a fast, alarming rate. And with that, these advancements of military tactics, they take over France to a point where they're right outside of Paris, and then they just stop. Why do you think Otto von Bismarck stopped? What do you think happened with Germany that allowed him just to say, you know what, this is good, this is enough? What do you think the German-speaking states did? Yeah, they unified. They came together, and that's all he wanted, right? That's all he wanted. So he stopped after they pretty much took over almost all of France. They just said, all right, that's enough. We showed the German-speaking states that we could unify, that we're a strong nation, that we could go toe-to-toe with the European power and really take them over within a year. That's all it took, just a year. And this unified Germany, and they became the most dominant power at the time of the late 1800s. And this pushed into, you remember that Berlin Conference? You guys remember the Berlin Conference? That was really establishing and setting up the framework, the groundwork of the scramble for Africa, right? Yeah, so seeing what territories would go to which country and maybe try to prevent war. And Berlin's where? Where's Berlin at? Chris? In Germany, yeah, look at that. So who's controlling a lot of the decisions in Europe? Germany, yeah. Why do you think? Because Otto von Bismarck, they're military, okay? Second wave industrial revolution. All these other European powers after this Franco-Prussian War recognized Germany, and the rest of the world recognized Germany as this new elite power in Europe. A lot of that has to do with their military. And their beliefs, their ideas was that Germany was by far the best country. They had a lot of sense of strong nationalism. Okay, that means national pride. And they use these conservative ideals to propel them to what we see them in World War I and eventually World War II. Okay, so Otto von Bismarck unified Germany, showed them to be the most dominant power in Europe. And the way they did that was because of the Franco-Prussian War. It only took a year. All right, is there any questions on that? You guys good with it? So you see how Germany becomes this strong power very quick, very fast. A lot has to do with technology and military power. And it really took a strong leader to do that with Otto von Bismarck. Okay. What I got, I'll show you a video quick, and I'll get you working on the reading. Does that sound good? Let me stop the recording. So reading is due tomorrow. That I will post here soon.